Just like a broken record, same old songs of accusation play. Like who are you to speak the truth? Just look at all your failures and mistakes. And if they really knew you, there's no way they could love you anyway. Oh, but I will fight the lies with the truth. Oh, keep my eyes fixed on you.
Hello, and welcome to the Send Help Podcast, a podcast and a lifeline for moms who are stuck in the trenches of mommyhood, bringing them encouragement through Jesus, laughter, and sisterhood. You guys, it is 1 week until Christmas.
It's ridiculous.
It's insane. Right? It's next week, right?
I felt like an idiot because I was watching on Facebook.
Yeah.
I was watching church on Facebook. And my pastor was saying, next Sunday will be our family Christmas service because that's the Sunday before Christmas. And I, like, all caps with exclamation marks and question marks, like, what? Commented on the feed. I was like, people are going to go back later and be looking at comments like, what did he say that she was so adamantly questioning?
That's hilarious.
I was like, no way that next Sunday is the Sunday before Christmas.
It's hilarious.
But it is. Definitely is.
Yeah, we're not, like, this Wednesday is our last time to gather until the new year.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're having...
It just kind of hit me.
Christmas parties are this weekend?
We decorated in November, like immediately after Halloween.
I know, me too.
We decorated, and now all of a sudden, like, December hit, and we're like, oh, now we can legitimately do the Christmas things. Even though we decorated a month ago, we can legitimately do Christmas things now. So let's start watching the Christmas movies and cookies and hot cocoa and like all, but we haven't.
Wait, you've been watching Christmas movies just now? Because I started in October.
Well, here's what happened. Dusty and I had a whole conversation about it because I was like,
haven't watched any of our,
where have our Christmas movies been? Why have we not broken those bad boys out? Because we've been watching Hallmark.
Yeah.
Since October.
Yes.
And keeping up with all of the new Hallmark Christmas movies.
I know.
We haven't watched any of the actual Christmas movies. So we spent some time yesterday and we watched, we only got 2 in, but we watched Elf and we watched It's a Wonderful Life.
We haven't watched Elf. That's fine.
We were going to put up Christmas lights and put our Santa reindeer, I don't even know what they're called because y'all call them Go-Gos.
I know, because Josh has called them Go-Gos since he was
so
little.
That's how I identify them. I'm like, oh, look at that frosty Go-Go. And that's not what they're called. But
no, they're inflatables. Yes. But when I refer to them as Go-Gos, that's what they are, everyone. So you now know. Josh has called them Go-Gos since he was a baby.
Yes. I've been very hesitant about putting it up.
Well, yeah.
Because last year we had the very large Olaf. Giant Olaf. As well as Santa and the Reindeer.
Mm-hmm.
And Olaf was stolen.
I know.
Flat out cut the cord of the stake holding it down. Stolen.
I know. And that
part of me was like, if I take a walk down the street, was he so big that he broke the string and like he's floated off somewhere? No. That string was cut.
And then you got a ring. You didn't have a ring camera.
No, we did. It wasn't in view of the ring.
Oh.
Yeah.
But your Santa...
And all of our neighbors checked theirs, and they're like, we didn't see anything on ours.
They're crafty.
I know.
Josh was so heartbroken for you guys.
Yeah, the girls were devastated.
So,
it was Olaf.
Yeah. So what Josh did was he was like, Mommy, we have to give them one of mine. Because Josh has a bunch of the little ones. Mm-hmm. So he took his favorite, which was Cinny, the
gingerbread boy.
gingerbread man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we took it to the girls.
He's in our living room.
Yeah. He loved Sunny.
We started putting them inside the house.
Yeah. No,
so that we can enjoy them year after year. With no fear. But yeah, Dusty put Santa and the reindeer out today.
Is it?
They better be there.
Is it in view?
I need to check. I need to check.
Yeah.
But
well, speaking of inflatables,
it's only 2 weeks.
it's
only got to be out there for 2 weeks.
Brings me to our topic today. Okay, so speaking of inflatables, my parents, as you know, they have.
I love it.
An insanely huge nativity scene, and then they've got, I think they're 14-foot wise men.
Yeah.
They're 14 to 18 feet tall, and one is on top of not a donkey, a camel.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. They have a little angel that's in between, and then my dad added. My mom has always wanted a star with lights coming down, like a shooting star in the sky.
Oh yeah.
And he gave that to her last Christmas, and he just installed it, and she didn't even know, and it was amazing. So it's a big deal. It is the pride and joy of our family. It's sad, but it's true. I mean, Josh loves these Go-Gos. I mean,
he does. Yeah.
He loves Go-Gos. I mean, and my parents have one for every single season because he loves them so much, and he's the only grandchild, and it's been a thing. It's just been a thing. And I mean, every time we go to my parents' house, he has to go and he hugs Mary and he hugs Joseph, and he's done it since he was. I think they've had that one since his second Christmas. So he was 2 when they got it, and it was a big deal. And you know, these are expensive inflatables. My dad is a pro at keeping them up. He's got it attached to the roof, and then there are poles that he's got support poles to make sure that they stand up. He is incredible at anchoring, and then he's learned over the years, because they're such investments, that he weatherproofs the motor.
Oh.
And yeah, I mean, he puts time into them, and then he lights them, not from the not the inside lights, because the inside lights suck. He's got them lit, and then those all have waterproof housings too. So everything, I mean, it's serious.
Yeah.
Because that's how they are able to last so long.
Right.
And in crazy rain and snow and sleet and all the things.
Snow.
And wind. There has been snow on them. It's because my dad really takes care of them, and he really maintains the motors and all the things. So, gosh. Okay, so I guess it was 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think so.
2 weeks ago in Silverstone, my parents' neighborhood, and all over Weatherford, really. It's not like this is a unique occurrence, but there seemed to have been this trend that a lot of people woke up to their inflatables being slashed, or the motors being broken, or something. And long story short, it's not short, actually. It's going to be a long story, so buckle in. This group of teenagers, I mean, my dad didn't know what was going on, because he had looked at it. He was like, I don't know why they're deflated today, but they're not really deflated, because the poles and the connection to the roof is still holding them up. Yeah. So they look sleepy.
Right.
And they keep them
tired.
on. Yeah, and they keep them on all the time.
They do, yeah.
Because the great thing
you
about
can
inflatables
see them in the daytime.
is you can see them in the daytime. Exactly. Mom and Dad called. I guess it was a week, it was 2 weeks ago. It doesn't matter, really. They called and they're like, okay, I need you to pray. And, I mean, it seems crazy to pray about an inflatable, but they're
a big deal in your
the
family.
Heart of our Christmas, you know, all the decoration. Everything is about these Go-Gos. And it's Jesus.
It is Jesus.
My mom called and she was like, I need you to just pray. Dad is out there right now trying to figure out what's going on. And we saw on the Nextdoor app that a bunch of people, that some kids have been going around and they've been slashing people's inflatables. She was like, you remember this one and this one and this one? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, they're all down. And they've found some kids, but we've looked on our Ring app and it didn't pick up anything. And I'm like, first of all, to know later on in the story how on earth the Ring app didn't catch any movement,
right,
is unfathomable to me. So my dad is out trying to fix them, looking for holes, can't find any holes, but the motors are all cracked. He's really upset. Mom's on the phone with me. She's really upset. She's like, we have to tell Josh.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, gosh, great. So anyway, she's on the phone with me. My dad, like, I hear the ring go off, and I hear all the dogs go barking and crazy, and then Dad comes back in the room, and I'm still on the phone with my mom, and my dad is like, so that was amazing. That was just like, I mean, it went from this really dark, what has happened? Someone slashed them. How are we going to tell Josh? To my dad comes in and he's like, well, they definitely were broken by some teenagers. And it was because the teenagers, the boys and this girl who was driving the car, and her dad swears up and down that she did nothing, but she also, there's video of her jumping on these, and yeah, they took running leaps at it. The parents had figured it out, which is funny because we all thought it was because of the Nextdoor app, but actually it was because of my Facebook post.
I remember your Facebook post.
I was just like, my parents' beloved inflatables, you know, were stabbed last night. We thought that they were stabbed at that point. You know, they're huge. It's hard to find the hole, especially when it's cold and windy and it's dark.
Yes.
And I'm like, it's just not cool. Like, stop being jerks.
Yeah.
That was it. I mean, I didn't want it to be...
It was a nice post.
Yeah. It was nice, but also mad.
Yes.
Anyway, evidently I'm friends with one of the boys' moms, and she doesn't know why she's friends with me, and I can only see what our mutual friends are, and I'm like, well, it must have been because we have so many mutual friends. I don't know why.
Right.
She saw the post, immediately thought to herself, I think that was probably my son, and gets his phone, looks through, and they evidently Snapchatted the entire thing, and she saw every single house and the whole thing. They filmed the whole thing, and they had some people have been able to catch like pictures of the car,
right?
And she was like, that's my son. Like, you know, I mean, she put it all together, and then she basically grabbed them by their ear and dragged them to every house and made that all the parents were there. Like, the parents were standing behind the kids had to apologize, and then they had to come back and fix it. And then these parents are like, we'll pay for it if, you know, we have to pay for repairs or whatever, like, you know. Which is incredibly generous, but...
It was, but if my kid messed up the nativity Go-Go...
Yeah, that's
no,
what she
they
said.
would be paying for that, not me.
Okay, so... My dad was blown away.
That wasn't just like a $15 Walmart Go-Go.
My dad was blown away by the fact that parents, like, would do what he would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
know.
It really is nice
Yeah.
to hear that parents still do that.
I mean, it turned around on social media because I wanted to make sure that I posted it, that this is what just happened. You won't believe that this is happening. I can't believe it. So my parents went from being really upset and feeling like there is no good in the world to parents are still good.
Right.
To the next day. Now, I need to say in here, because I'll tell you about what happened the next day, because God is amazing. I found out something interesting about my child that I did not know. Josh and Tim come home while I'm on the phone with my parents, and I'm telling Tim what happened, and Josh gets infuriated. I mean, so mad, and he is so angry, and this is the kid that will say maybe 5 words to my parents on a phone. He's really bad at phone calls.
Yeah.
He came in, took my phone from me to talk to mom and dad, and I can hear them because it's on speaker. I can hear him, and he is just going. He is saying all the things, and he's like, they better do this, and they better do this, and then he's like, and my dad's like, well, they're gonna come back tomorrow, and Josh is like, well, I'm gonna be there, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna grab them like I'm hugging them so tight, and I'm gonna get in their face, and I'm gonna be like, how would you like it if somebody did that to your baby Jesus? You know, he was just so upset. And then my dad kept trying to be like, okay, well, we'll see you tomorrow. Right. Okay, well, we'll see you tomorrow. And Josh would be like, can I tell you a story? I need to tell you something. My friend Avery and Annabelle, they had their Olaf Go-Go stolen. Somebody did the same thing, but they stole it. And he was like, and that was awful. And I'm going to be like, what if somebody did this to you? I mean, it hit him so much. I mean, he had so much he needed justice.
Right.
And he talked to them for 25 minutes, just ranting. And what he was going to do and how he was going to talk to them. And he was going to say all of these things to them, to the big kids, because how could they do this? And he was like, it's baby Jesus. And
baby Jesus is always the one that gets stolen from the nativity.
It incensed him. I mean, I've never seen him so confrontational
about his feeling.
Exactly. And it was because they had done it to BG and Papa, and of all things, baby Jesus. Or the wise men. It didn't matter. It was mostly the wise men. They tried.
They were bringing gifts. What did they ever do to you?
He was just so upset. And, I mean, he was... The next morning, kid you not, he woke up ready for a fight still. He was like, when are we going to BG and Papa's? When are the kids coming? When are the boys coming? When are those teenagers going to be there? And...
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, I don't know, buddy. Because we had a photo shoot that day, and I was like, I mean, possibly, while you're there, because you're going to go over there. And so he got dressed. You guys, my child, it was amazing. I mean, he came out, and he's like, I'm going to wear this because I don't want them to think that I'm clumsy. And I feel like he was just trying... So he's dressed in head-to-toe camouflage. Head to toe.
He wanted to look tough. But he didn't know, the right words for, intimidating, in that moment. Yeah.
So he was like, I know that sometimes big kids like to pick on little kids with glasses because they think they're clumsy. And I don't want them to think I'm clumsy. And I'm like, do you want to intimidate them? And he was like, what does that mean? I was like, you want them to know that you mean business? Yeah, I do. Because I got some stuff to say. And it was just, we're hours away from going anywhere at this point. He is full head to toe with shoes on, marching up and down the hallway,
ready to go.
Himself up.
Oh my goodness.
He is dressed for confrontation. He knows his power outfit. He's got it on. I mean, he is ready. And so we had to have a conversation about sharing, showing grace to people and forgiveness, and about how it's okay for you to be angry, but you can't sin in your anger. And the way that you act and the way that you treat these boys is going to be a reflection, because you're talking about the baby Jesus. So they know you're Christians. I was like, you have to show them the grace and the love of Jesus also. You can tell them how upset that it made you, but then you have to forgive them. So we had this opportunity of really being able to talk about how to sin, how to be angry and not sin, how to show God's grace, how to be like Jesus to people, and how to forgive. Like, it all came in. I was like, I'm proud of you for not being afraid of confrontation. I'm proud of you for being angry and for wanting justice.
Yeah.
But there is a way to do this where you also share Jesus. And he was like, he wasn't super excited about sharing grace, but then I was like, well, how often do you sin? And he's like, not often. I was like, how often do you talk to mommy disrespectfully? Oh. Yeah. I was like, well, that's a sin. The way that you treat your mom sometimes is a sin. I was like, I mean, they're no better than us, and they're no worse than us. They got carried away with something that was very stupid and destructive. He was like, you said stupid. I was like, I know I did. But it was. He goes, it was stupid. I was like, that's your one S word. Because Josh still thinks that stupid is the S word. Because that's how sheltered I want to keep my child.
Yes. Yep.
He's 7. But he was so raring to go. He was ready. He was ready for war. He was ready. He told Tim, he goes, World War I and World War II were very, very intense wars. They wore camo. I mean, he was dressed for battle. And Tim was like, where did he get that? I was like, well, I have power outfits. I was like, anytime I pulled out
Everybody has a power outfit.
Yeah, but I'm like, he's like, I never wanted confrontation. I still don't want confrontation. I was like, I mentally prepare for confrontation. I gotta be honest.
Yeah.
Like, he definitely gets it from me. But the boldness and the wanting justice part, it's just, we really got to see, first of all,
that was new.
He's gonna be a great big brother.
Yeah.
And that's the way I used to treat anybody that ever picked on my brother, was like that. That's when my claws came out, was standing in between Micah and a bully.
Yeah.
Any kind of justice moment, I'll do it, But I also told Josh about the time in high school when that girl tried to pick a fight with me, and she slapped me across the face. And instead of, I was like, I could have hit her back. I was way taller than her. I could have leveled her, but I didn't. Instead, I looked at her and I was like, did that make you feel better? Do you need to do it again? I was like, Jesus said that we need to turn the other cheek.
She's like, I felt better until you said that.
Exactly. It put her in her place enough.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to hit her. I was like, I'm not going to hit you. I'm not going to hit you. Because it's not going to solve anything, and it's not going to make you feel better or me. And then at that point, thankfully, Coach Miller comes up and, takes us to his office. And I'm like, oh, God, that could have been real bad. But in the moment, I was cool as a cucumber. And I extended grace. And I knew that's what I was doing, because at that point I was like, Jesus said, turn the other cheek. I'm just saying it in my mind, like, this is going to get a lot worse if I do anything. And I told him that story, and I'm like, I was like, it's not about letting someone beat up on you, but it is about doing what Jesus would have done.
Yeah.
He turned over tables. He was mad.
Yeah.
But he didn't sin in his anger.
Right.
And he didn't treat somebody like crap just because they treated him like crap.
Right.
And I was like, and that is what I'm trying to teach you right now. It's like, I love that you want to tell them, and I want you to be able to tell them your feelings. But you don't get to be rude. You don't get to be mean. And you don't get to stoop to the level that they did when they destroyed baby Jesus. And anyway, so now I'm going forward to when they show up. I don't know anything that's happened because we've gone to go do a photo shoot, and like, I'm like, please, Mom and Dad, don't let Josh get crazy, or do something that he then has to ask for forgiveness for. And then I'm like, please don't let these kids be rude. Anyway, it ended up, you guys, so good. They did not stab the inflatables. They instead stomped on the motors. Now, those motors, to replace them, would be about $150 a piece because they're big motors. Dad had the serial numbers. He looked up the replacement parts, the whole 9 yards.
Oh my goodness.
Their house was the first house that they came to in their round of fixing things.
Yeah.
My dad was amazing. To hear my mom tell the story, Dad got in there. He taught them how to fix things. He had the girl whip stitching, because what they did was they tried to knock over the wise men, and they would take running jumps from the driveway and try and take it out. Well, by doing that, because of the way that all of the anchors were set, it ripped the seams.
Right.
But they also cracked all the motors. And so Dad, he got in there. They stayed for the whole time we were shooting. They were there. They got there right as we left, so it was probably 2.5 hours that they were in the front yard. And Mom kept loving on their mom. She said, in her post, because she posted on my post, which is, I wanted to make sure, wanted to make sure that on Nextdoor app that it was, because people had been taking it off with I've never had a post get that blown up, but taking off with it, saying, this has been happening, I can't believe it. And then people would just be cussing about it, and I'd be like, this is what happened, though.
Yeah. There's
a really happy ending to all of this. Now, are the wise men the way that they should be? No.
No.
Are they inflated enough? Yes.
Yeah.
The mom of the boys, wrote on my post on Facebook, and she was like, your mom hugged me 10 times while we were there. My mom was able to share the whole story of Jesus. Evidently, when their mom saw the video, she was like, baby Jesus? Really? Baby Jesus? Are you kidding me? I mean, as any of us would have said to our children.
Yeah.
It was amazing. She posted pictures of the boys and that was of the kids fixing. And my dad was in there with them, and he taught them everything so that they could go and be able to do this at other people's houses. And they were there for 2.5 hours, and they ended up leaving with my parents. My parents know how to love on people. They
do.
Are amazing at loving on people. They have such huge hearts, and they just, especially when they feel like they're doing what God wants them to do, the way that they love people, it just points back to Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because they did that for all of these kids. They had so much grace with them. They didn't let them off the hook, but they definitely didn't leave them hanging there either.
Right.
And Josh evidently was real stern, and he was able to say the things, but he did it respectfully. And by the end, he was dancing around, entertaining them, distracting them, and bringing them waters. But Josh felt so, justified, he had done something. And it was just really amazing. And it made me really think about, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they're not standing up as straight as they used to. What matters is,
I mean, they were probably old men that didn't stand all
right.
the way straight anyway.
They're
probably more
kneeling.
accurate now.
They're just kneeling to Jesus. You know, they're just showing respect and reverence.
Yeah.
They
just made it more
They
accurate.
fell on their knees.
Yeah.
It's fine. Even the camel is kneeling.
They should just have that song playing with that particular part over on repeat, like fall on, and then the wise men are falling.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I just think that it gave so much more because of what God did through it all.
Yeah.
And it's because of how my parents handled it. And it's because of how, like, Josh handled himself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of how those parents handled it.
Right.
And especially that sweet mama. I told her she was a rock star mama I was like, you were a rock star mom.
Yeah.
What you did. Seriously. You know, it took a really crappy situation in 2020
right.
on top of that. And honestly, everyone is real raw right
it's
now.
True.
We're at the end of 2020. People have
true.
high hopes that it's all going to change in 2021 and, you know, the day that it turns 2021. And we've talked about how stupid we think that is. But, you know, people are afraid. They're afraid. There's nothing left. They're unraveling at a really rapid pace. And this could have really been bad.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they came to our house first. You know, they came to my parents' house first, and that's exactly where they needed to come first.
Mm-hmm.
Not only because my dad could teach them, but because my parents would treat them the way that God would want them to be treated.
Right.
In this situation. There were other parents or other people on Nextdoor app that were threatening to shoot them, and if they had caught them, they would have shot them, and all of this. And I feel like in Texas, you need to know that that is a very real threat.
It's true.
And you're disturbing their property, and you're on their property, and technically they could.
Yeah.
You know. Now, would that have been a good choice? No. On either side. Yeah. Like, let's don't get killed over an inflatable Christmas display.
Right.
But this is where we are right now. And these are where people are right now.
Yeah.
And those boys were blowing off steam. But they were also seriously in the wrong. And I just think that it's a beautiful lesson in just unexpected blessing out of a crappy situation. Seriously. And I think that is what sums up 2020 altogether right there. Is there have been unexpected beautiful blessings that have come out of a really crappy year.
Yeah.
With really bad situations. And, you know, just devastating. A devastating year. But you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because it's not all been bad.
Especially when the baby is baby Jesus.
Exactly. I just, you know, I got my parents and my brother and sister-in-law COVID ornaments. And I got you and Tasha and I got dumpster fire ornaments. And not because, like, I'm trying to commemorate this wonderful year, but because we always get yearly ornaments that just kind of marks what the year was.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents' ornament is a quarantine ornament. It's got 4 little faces. And I was like, you need to write Mike, Becky, Micah, and Jenna, because you guys it was not sunshine and roses.
Right.
But God has not wasted that time that you've all been together. I was like, and so it should be marked.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you put it on your tree or not, I don't care. But here's 2020.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I got a dumpster fire for us because our little Marco Polo Tri-School of Hope group, like, we started that February 19th, 2020. Right before everything hit.
Yeah.
And look at what all God has done. It has not been a total dumpster fire of a year.
Right.
It hasn't. We've got to celebrate the blessings.
Yeah.
And it's a tongue-in-cheek blessing, like celebration.
I mean, Tasha has become a really good friend, and I've seen her in person twice.
Yeah.
Since we
Yeah.
started the Marco Polo, which was really when I first met her, was when we started Marco Poloing.
Yeah. I know. It's amazing. But if you look back over in all of this awful that has happened this year, there have been some significant blessings.
Yeah.
Significant moves of God. And it's amazing. Like what he's done in 1 year amidst total chaos.
Right.
I just feel like the inflatables were just like the baby Jesus Go-Gos were just absolutely a marker for that. Like, look at what happened. Look at what the enemy tried to do, and look at what God did instead.
Right.
It was beauty from the ashes, from the deflated inflatable.
They rose from the flames.
Yeah. And you wouldn't know if you didn't know those Go-Gos as well as I do. You wouldn't know that anything ever had happened to them. But because of God's grace, and because of the grace that he extends to us, and the grace that he has extended to my parents, they were able to turn around and then extend that same grace and develop a relationship and to be Jesus in the flesh in that moment. And I got to teach my kid that you can be angry, but there's a way to be angry without sinning.
Yeah.
And we got to talk about forgiveness in a real tangible way that wasn't just, so-and-so hurt my feelings.
Right.
This was the first, action that has really come against it. I mean, he's had stuff happen to him. He's had people pick on him. But Josh doesn't see it. He's a saint. He's exactly like us.
Yeah.
He
doesn't see it.
No, he doesn't see it as, a reason to be infuriated. It's just a reason to feel sad.
Yeah.
But this got his blood boiling. He prepared for war. He put on his armor of God. He did. As he's walking out the door, he's like, I'm going to put on the full armor of God. I mean, it was just it was amazing. He was in this form that we've never seen him. And he was it was about justice, just justice for baby Jesus and BG and Papa. And I don't know. I'm so proud of who he is and who God is showing me that he is. And I just really feel like he's, one of my words for 2020 was prepare and steadfast and then glory. This has been a year of being steadfast in our faith and steadfast in what we pour into Josh. Really trying to be intentional and steadfast about that, of holding to the promises. But we've been preparing, but I didn't know until just now as I'm talking how much God has been preparing Josh also. And it wasn't until, there was a fire that he needed to put it out.
Right.
And it's just amazing to see the fruit of what this year has brought. And it's not bad fruit. It's good fruit. Yeah. Because like Tim was saying today, we were talking about resistance training. And we were talking about, building muscle and everything. He's like, people think, especially Americans, think, oh, I can definitely pick that 300-pound thing up, But if you haven't been training, because we were talking about being able to see the enemy's schemes, if you haven't been training,
right,
your spirit and really looking to Jesus, when it's not Jesus and it's actually the enemy, but the enemy's saying all the right things, how are everybody, we have this air about us that we're like, oh, I'll be able to see it. I'll be able to see it.
Right.
I'll be able to identify the Antichrist when he comes. I'm not going to be fooled. But that's part of the fire that the enemy flames is your pride.
Yeah.
So when you're not experiencing any resistance and everything's going great for you, you're not growing in the Lord.
Right.
It's that resistance that we're facing in our day-to-day life and in our walk with Christ that grows us in the Lord, and also trains us to know his voice and to know who he is, and know that is not God when I see it.
Right.
You don't need to know what the enemy looks like. You need to know what God looks like.
Right.
And if you focus so much on trying to identify the enemy versus identifying where God is, then, you're
not going to know the difference.
You're not going to know the difference. Exactly. And this year has been so much resistance, especially in our walk with Christ, that there's fruit. There's some serious fruit. And where maybe you could only pick up 50 pounds in your spiritual walk before, you could probably pick up a car. When push came to shove.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's who I want to be. I want to be the person that when their feet are put to the flame can resist and keep my faith strong.
Right.
Like we've had a lot of comfort taken away from us this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's been good for us. I know a lot of people don't want to admit that because you're still in that place. We're all still in a place of discomfort. And for some, even, in January, it could be even more discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of things that are happening that we don't want to admit might actually happen. But God's not going to waste any of that resistance.
No.
He's going to build you. He's going to build and build and build and prepare. And it's going to be amazing when we're able to get past this, to be able to see. We've talked about this before. We're going to be able to see all the fires that God has been building and growing for him. Some of the biggest moves of God have been done when the church was being persecuted the most.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we're entering into more of a season of persecution that we haven't ever seen.
Right.
As Christians. And I want the world to see Christians for who Jesus wanted us to be.
Yeah.
I was watching a show, and it was not a Christian show by any means, but they were talking about Christians and talking about the persecution that they feel from Christians all the time, and it made me really sad. Nothing grieves me more than other Christians, honestly. It's not the sin in the world. It's the way the Christians treat people that are openly sinning.
Yeah.
It's the fact that we're supposed to be human-sized, I'm supposed to be in a man-sized mirror reflecting God's glory back to everybody, reflecting his grace back to everybody, reflecting God to everyone. That's my job as a Christian, is to reflect and to show the same grace that I've been shown to everyone else.
Right.
My job is I'm not supposed to be a judgment mirror. That's not my job. My job is to reflect Jesus to you.
Right.
And if you look at me and you don't see Jesus as love back at you, I'm doing something wrong.
We fall into a habit as the church as a whole. I'm not going to talk about individuals because not every individual does this, but the church,
the Big C church,
has fallen into reflecting the legalism of the faith instead of the grace of God.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We get tied up in it because
we do, and all we've done is push people further away from God.
Right.
And
because in our flesh we get caught up in the works.
Mm-hmm.
And we forget that it's not about works. It's not about our works. we get caught up in the don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And then we see everyone else doing those things that we're not supposed to be doing. And it becomes like, well, I'm not doing that. But our job is to show the grace of God.
Yeah.
And open people's eyes to the healing and restoration that they can find in him.
Mm-hmm. Because that's God's job. All we need to do is put I'm gonna put your hand in Jesus' hand. I'm gonna introduce you, because God is big enough to bring up those sins and to convict you.
Right. Conviction is the job of the Holy Spirit, not of the Christian.
It's the Holy Spirit's job to convict, and he will convict when you are ready to face it. Absolutely. And as long as you are growing in relationship with Christ, which is what it's about, people. It's about growing in relationship with Christ. If they are growing in relationship with Christ, just like we become like our best friend, we say the same things as our best friend does. Mm-hmm. We end sentences the same way. The more time you spend with someone, the more more like them you become. Mm-hmm. And it's the same with our relationship with Christ. If we are spending time with him, we can't help but become like him.
Right.
And that is where lifestyle changes. That's where heart changes. That's where conviction and repentance and all of those things happen.
Right.
It's in this relationship that you're building with the Lord. And you can't do that for someone.
Right.
And yelling at them about their sins or treating them a certain way instead of the grace of God, instead of reflecting who Jesus is to them, you're doing nothing but putting more space between them and God, because they assume, because you're supposed to be like Christ, that's what Christ was like.
I mean, imagine if those teens had have gone to someone else's house.
I know.
Before they went to your parents' house.
Exactly.
And they just got beat down on top of how they're already feeling.
Yes.
I mean, they acted like that in the first place for a reason.
Yeah.
Blowing off steam, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But it's a taught behavior. It's a taught attitude. And if I'm just like, I'm so glad that they came to my parents' house first, because not only did they get a lesson in what the wise men were doing and why they were, I mean, Mom got to tell the entire nativity story while standing out there, loving on a mama. And my dad's loving on those kids, but being firm with them and being like, this is how we have to do it. And I'm not going to let you.
They were shown grace.
So much grace.
Which affected how they went into the next house.
Yeah.
That they had to go to.
Exactly. That's something that they said to my parents, is I'm so glad we came here first.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were talking about they wouldn't have known how to fix anything, but
right.
I'm just glad that they came there first, because my parents are the only, I don't know who else would have treated them that way. And maybe that helped change their attitude going forward.
Right.
I don't know, you guys. I just think it's amazing. And I have some verses to share with you about this. So let me find them. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, so this is Colossians 3:13. Make allowances for each other's faults and forgive. Anyone who offends you, remember the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. 1 Corinthians 15:10. Yet not I, but the grace of God within me. Thank you, Jesus, for that grace, because it's not in our strength. And then this, well, it's be angry, but do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, and do not make room for the devil. What he's saying here is we can't get angry. Anger is a natural human emotion. Like, we can get angry. Anger is a natural human emotion and not a bad one, and in and of itself. But the problem is what we do with the anger when we feel it.
I don't know where that's located.
Yeah.
I know that it's scripture.
It is indeed scripture.
Won't take very long to find it, though.
So, in all of this holiday madness, and COVID times, and the end of 2020, let's not forget that the first and foremost important thing that we should be doing is extending grace to one another and to ourselves. Don't get angry. and sin. You can be angry, but you got to be able to do it with a happy heart. I want to say happy heart, but
be angry with a happy heart.
No, but with the grace of God, you need to conduct yourself in a godly manner, even when you're angry. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel your feelings, but you don't get to act out in them. Don't sin while you're angry.
Yeah. Ephesians 4:26.
Thank you so much. And forgive. Let's ask the Lord to illuminate the places that we are holding unforgiveness, and let's start doing it. Because, 'tis the season for forgiveness.
It really is.
It is.
It literally is the season for forgiveness.
And remember, Santa and Ring cameras are watching.
It's true. It's true.
That's the story of the Go-Gos, the Christmas Go-Gos.
The grace of the Go-Gos.
Anyway, you guys, we love you. We are not going to be around for the next week. We'll be back the week of New Year's Eve. New Year's? Yeah.
Yes.
We're going to go live on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
So if you're around, if you're socially distancing and you're at home, you can tune in.
You can watch us instead of... is New York even happening?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I mean,
don't know
they announced that Thanksgiving parade wasn't happening super early, months in advance. So
I don't know. You guys.
I haven't heard anything about New Year's Eve.
Anything is going to look like this year.
Ryan Seacrest will be there on a
watch-
rooftop somewhere.
Watch us instead. Merry Christmas. We love you. Check us out on all of the social medias that you're already listening
All
to.
those things.
At Sendheld Podcast. Go to the website, thesendheldpodcast.com. And we will see you in 2021.
Woo!